Hiya, I'm Noam, and I'm a NOAA Climate and Global Change Postdoctoral Fellow here at the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology. So I'm standing here in Kaneohe Bay on the island of Oahu, surrounded by these beautiful mountains, but more relevant for this talk, these beautiful coral reefs. So coral reefs are the most biodiverse habitat in the marine environment, and although corals are animals, inside corals live the symbiotic algae. And these algae photosynthesize, so they obtain energy from the sun, and they pass some of that energy on to their coral hosts. Now, unfortunately, if the temperature is too high, these algae leave their coral hosts in a process called coral bleaching. And if the warm waters are maintained for too long, then the coral hosts can't get enough energy and they end up dying. So we're seeing coral bleaching occurring more and more often all around the world as the oceans warm due to climate change. And under current projections, if we don't rapidly reduce our CO2 emissions, we could be seeing the loss of most tropical coral cover by the end of the current century. On the other hand, as the oceans warm and the tropics become less habitable for corals, the subtropical or higher latitude seas are potentially becoming more habitable for corals. So for some other marine organisms like fish, we are seeing a redistribution of marine biodiversity away from the tropics and towards higher latitudes. So contrary to fish, corals are attached to the ocean floor, they can't swim. But coral larvae can float around in the water column, and they can drift over very large distances in ocean currents. So there is a mechanism by which corals can, over multiple generations, move to high latitude seas. The question is, could that happen at a fast enough rate to allow this redistribution of coral biodiversity to keep up with climate change? So if it could, it wouldn't make up for the loss of tropical coral reefs in low latitudes, but it could potentially help prevent a permanent loss of coral biodiversity if tropical coral species find refuge at high latitudes. So in order to find out whether this potential rate of coral range expansion could keep up with climate change, we are running global ecological and climate models to predict how quickly corals can range expand. And what we're finding is that although we probably are going to see an expansion of coral reefs to subtropical and potentially high latitude seas, this expansion is probably going to take centuries in order to take place. Whereas we're expecting to see the most severe effects of coral biodiversity loss by the end of the current century. So although we probably are going to see a redistribution of tropical coral biodiversity towards higher latitudes, it's probably not going to take place at nearly fast enough a rate to mitigate the impacts of climate change.